A path is never just a path. It's a memory pressed into the world. Before the buildings, before the landmarks, there's a line. A quiet suggestion that something was here. That they walked this way and something waited at the end of it. Some paths are young, clean and certain, laid with purpose, like the promise of a place that will become. Others are older, softened by time. The edges have blurred, the grass is reclaiming what once was held back. You don't build those paths all at once. They become what they are slowly, the way that real things do, step by step, piece by piece, and without realizing it, you begin to leave pieces of yourself behind in the world. A shortcut carved out of frustration, a long road built in quiet focus, a trail that only exists because you just kept going back there. These paths remember, not in words, but in the way they curve, in the way they fade, and in the way they lead you somewhere familiar, without ever needing a sign. So when you place your next block, pause for a moment and see what path you're building. Because in a world that truly never ends, the story is not just what you build, it's the ground that you walk on. Paths form slowly, and they form over a long time. That's okay, because in this world, time isn't an issue. In this world, we have forever. Hey, welcome back to ForeverCraft. And the sun is setting on us, but that's okay, because we're gonna head into the mines. Actually, I think I still will sleep, because it's really annoying when we get mobs on the overworld. I actually don't know when our helmet broke. I just realized that that's no longer on us, so that's an interesting thing. I want to work on some paths today. You can see I've already grabbed some gravel and coarse dirt. I don't know if this is going to be quite enough, but we're just going to work on the little bit of path that goes from the path we already created down to Plato's build. And it's not a super big stretch here because it only goes from here over way down there to his new house. That's one thing I want to get done today, and the other thing I want to get done is get a couple horses and see how that is getting them down that nether pathway. I've talked in the last couple episodes how it would be nice to have like a really good horse at each location, so I think that's going to be another goal. But first things first, let's kind of get an idea what this path looks like already, and then we'll start throwing down some path blocks. We're not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to stick with this path block, gravel, and coarse dirt design we've already got for this path. And then from there is when I'll go back through and start kind of working on the tree lines and any kind of bone mealing or plant foliage stuff we want to put on the outsides. So as you can see, I roughed in a path when I first made this, just to get a feel for what these paths would feel and look like. And now what I'll do is I'll go through and kind of reshape the path. And that is not what I'm trying to do. Although that is a step, but it's not this step. So what I'll do is I already have a roughed in path, right? And we know this bridge is a fixed point, so we kind of have to make everything work with the bridge now that this is like a build that someone did, right? Panda threw this build in for us. I appreciate that. And I kind of like that this has grass already. It's almost like they just kind of reinforced the already existing ground. So we'll actually turn this whole thing into path blocks. I don't think it would make sense for grass to be growing in there, but I think we will throw a bunch of coarse dirt and leave it kind of just as like a muddy path bridge. When I'm doing a path, I'm always kind of thinking about the sight lines and what I can see from where I'm working. So for here, like I don't want it to be a straight shot to Plato's build. I want to kind of swerve this way and then we straighten out and then we curve through the trees a little bit down here. Just enough to kind of break up your sight lines so you kind of get lost when you're going down the path. I feel like that really helps you get a little bit more immersed in the world. We've got our first kind of decision point here. I like to make all of my builds and roads and things like that work with the world. And this is kind of an awkward drop to me. So I think I'm going to actually hop down here and steal a little bit of dirt. Oh, we don't want to steal that dirt. That might be visible. All right, now that we have a little bit of dirt, we can do some very minor terraforming right here. I just want to bow the land out a little bit here to give this platform not such a steep drop off. Now, there's still things we can do here to like maintain this area a little bit, like putting a wall or some kind of barrier. Like when they put this path in originally, they kind of knew it was kind of sketchy. So they put like an extended wall here so no one came flying off the corner, but I feel like it's a little bit too precarious for my liking right now. So we'll just widen it ever so slightly out like this. That way you can at least come off the road straight, if that makes sense, or, you know, straight-ish. The path would kind of naturally curve away from that because people are not going to want to be walking close to the edge and falling down there, right? Why is there a pumpkin there? That's weird. Anyway. What was I saying? Oh yes, so we're gonna naturally kind of curve away from that, and then we'll curve back this way. Like I said, I have gravel, coarse dirt. I grabbed some cobblestone too. I don't think I mixed cobblestone into the main path very much, but I do think that it could do well for this little path here. I'm picturing this a road less traveled too, so I think we want to stick with like maybe a max width of 3 blocks. I feel like the width of a road is another thing. Like a bridge, it's going to be all the width of the bridge, but the actual like walking path definitely shows like how often is this traveled, and this one's probably not traveled super often as like a main path between towns, if that makes sense. I guess our other path kind of just goes to our house, but it's to the rock quarry too, so it would be traveled more often in my brain. That kind of leans towards another thing I've been thinking about a lot lately, and that's like the story in the world. I used to put like a significant amount of story in the world to the point where a lot of my videos were barely Let's Plays as much as they were actually like in-world stories, if anything. And I want to kind of get back to at least having a story behind some of the stuff, even if it's not as thought out as that was back then. I like the idea of things existing for a reason and being able to like explain why. So a story doesn't have to be like the knight went and rescued the princess from the dragon, right? It can be the people of this town worked in a rock quarry, and so they had to travel back and forth from the port to the rock quarry, and that's why that road is there, and that's why it is, you know, a certain amount worn or a certain size road, right? The story can also be like, well, they weren't very technologically advanced, and these people were afraid of the dark, so that's why there's no lanterns by the roads. They didn't travel at night, and so they had no use to have lanterns. I don't know if that one's actually going to stick for this area, but that's the kind of idea, right? A story doesn't always have to be, like I said, a plot with a bad guy and a good guy. Sometimes it can just be, why is something the way that it is? And that's how I kind of like to build my worlds, to have a little bit of internal logic. I mean, it's still Minecraft, and the logic doesn't always make perfect sense, but you get the gist, right? Okay, we're gonna have to come back through here. I don't ever like jumping when I'm walking down a path, so we're gonna put in some slabs, probably oak wood because it blends the best with path blocks. And we'll have to kind of figure that out. I always have a hard time eyeballing where I would put the planks, so when we come back, the shape of this will probably change some. But we'll keep looping this way. I like how this is already kind of tightly going. It's almost like the path got overgrown, so I'm actually gonna probably leave these trees. And I'll put in some fence posts, but I'll really tuck them into these trees so they look like they've been like grown up and around them, if that makes sense. Yeah, like I don't know if Plato planted these trees or if we just happened to pick a really nice little path through there. All right, the other thing I want to be a little bit careful of is this is Plato's build in his area, and I don't really want to impose my will on it, if that makes sense. So we're probably going to stop the path kind of right here, maybe right where it breaks into his area, and then he can kind of decorate this however he wants to match, you know, whatever theming or area he wants to design. He can also come back here and tear this whole thing out if it doesn't fit what he likes, but hopefully he appreciates the path because we're putting it in. I do think he appreciated the chickens that we dropped him off last episode, so there you go. We're helping Plato all over the place around here. All right, so this path, I don't like a step down and then immediately a step back up. So this is another area where I would typically just widen this out, and then we'll just curve the path a little bit more so that it stays up on this upper shelf and there's not this awkward step up and step down. Typically I would get a lot more dirt to have handy too. It's so weird. There's like one layer of rock here and then, one layer of dirt here and then immediately into the rock. Usually there's like 4 or 5 layers of dirt and I can do this and kind of steal dirt, but kind of struggling to keep my dirt funded. But like I said, usually when I'm doing these like terraforming or this path mod, I would just have a shulker of dirt, but we jumped into this one maybe slightly ill-prepared, but I think we're going to make it work and we'll figure it out, I promise. Okay, this looks pretty good. This is this is like the max width, especially as we get closer to his house. I want to keep it really thin. And if we're going to go with a quote-unquote overgrown style, it might even make sense for some spots like this. Let's just leave a couple of grass blocks. Like, they really don't like squeezing between these trees, so this area is very untraveled. And again, through here, kind of the same feeling where it's not fully torn away because it's just been really overgrown through here and not maintained. We'll throw coarse dirt in these 2 spots. Honestly, that's just because I'm lazy and don't want to dig up more dirt. Okay, so this goes like this. So you see how this is like a diagonal? I feel like a diagonal just looks artificial. So what I'll actually do is I'll widen this side to make it feel more like it's curving. And then we'll break out maybe this block. It doesn't take a lot with a narrow path like this to really make the bend feel extreme. So you want to be a little bit careful, and it's really just kind of an eyeball and a feel game. Because you can end up with like a really wide path very fast. That looks pretty good to me. We'll hit this corner and we'll go up the hill. These indents, as you'll see when I go to get the blocks, actually work really well for stairs. I can picture it. There's going to be one there and here. So I'm actually going to dig those out like that. That way we can tuck our little oak planks right here to make these step ups a little smoother. We'll probably end up extending this a little bit too. That way we can do a similar thing here. And those oak planks will go right here. We'll do the same thing here. We'll carve it back. It feels a little bit more natural when you like indent the step ups into the earth rather than having them stick out on the outside. Same thing here. I would prefer that they go indented. So we'll just take out a couple layers there, a couple layers there. All right. We want to get back and sleep so nothing spawns on us here. And then we're going to go through the next phase, which will be the detailing and the step ups in the path. And then the last phase will be putting in the decoration of the outsides for trees and fence posts, maybe some walls. It could be interesting to use his section as more of a brick wall just to kind of differentiate the two paths. Or we could stick with fence posts and keep them the same. I'm not sure yet. Sometimes you have a plan when you're going into things, and sometimes you just hop on and play some Minecraft. The beauty of this game is we can always go back and change it up later. I think we had our horse and we left him down there. That was not my most intelligent move, but that's all right. We could burn some calories. I actually don't know how much oak wood I have, but we shouldn't need a lot. Again, it's not a huge path, and we just have like 2 hills to go up and down. That is not a slab, that is a pressure plate. We do not want to do that. We'll make a bunch because I use these quite a bit in pathways, so we'll definitely use them up no matter what. Throw these in here, and then let's get back to work. Do we need any other blocks while we're in here? I don't think so. Actually, we can grab these saplings and some bone meal, because that's going to be the next phase after we get the texturing and the fence posts in. We'll get some bones and then fence. I don't think we have much fence made. Yeah, we only have 12, but we have a whole bunch of spruce in here, so we'll just quickly convert this as well. That should be good. Stack and a half. That ought to be plenty. You actually will go through like a surprising amount depending on how often you're putting these fence posts in. I went pretty heavy in this area to really kind of make the path feel blocked in. But some areas you'll have more, some areas you'll have left. Here you get an idea of what we're going to do with these slabs. And this is kind of a good example of what I mean by insetting them versus having this be dirt and the planks sticking out into the path. I kind of like this feeling where you're walking up into the hill a little bit more. You can definitely do both, and you should mix it up. Every walkover shouldn't feel the exact same. All right, so first step down, like I said, this to me feels just slightly more awkward than if we just take out 2 dirt here and push these back into the hill. For some reason in my brain, that feels more like built into the world. Others may agree or disagree. All right, this one, I feel pretty good about that. I don't think we need one here. Again, see how that kind of feels like it's sticking out? We almost would need to do that, and now it's 4 wide. I don't want to go 4 wide here. We just want to go 3 wide, so I'll actually break that dirt, break these 2, and then we'll bam, path block. This one's fine. It's already just a 3 wide, like that. I honestly could almost get away with being a 2 and like a narrow spot in our path, but we'll leave it that way for now. This one's decent. Now the bridge, it would typically be a little bit more structured, so I don't actually hate that being a 4 wide, and I think we'll make this also a 4 wide. Or maybe a 3 wide at least, like that. I don't know if we can get away with that unless we put a couple dirt right there, actually. And then we'll extend the hill out so it doesn't look so manipulated here. There we go, yeah. That's nice. He's already got planks here. These planks are different, unfortunately, but I don't think I want to replace his bridge planks. The suspension of disbelief for the weird spruce section there, but spruce and tough do go together well, so that was a good block pick. All right, paths a little bit too sparse here. I think I kind of missed this area when I was widening. Typically, I don't like to do this either, where we're kind of dropping down. Like, I pretty much never put a path block directly exposed. That feels like a 3 wide to me. I don't know why. The path is very narrow here. No, you know what? I think this is actually one case where we'll keep it just 2 steps. Same thing here. This is a very steep hill, so I could see them being kind of precarious as they put stuff in here, right? See, that's not gonna work. What do we have to do to fix this? This can go in a little bit here, and then this can go in And then finally, like that. It's a little bit awkward. Let's do one more dirt there, and actually we'll take out this step. Like that. That's not too bad. That's pretty good, and then I always felt pretty good about this area. All right, is that all of our step ups and downs, I believe? So now is the fun part, where we just go a little bit kind of crazy and break just some random blocks and decide where we want to start putting our texturing. So we'll just go through and break up any kind of like thicker areas of path blocks where we have a bunch touching each other, if that makes sense. And we want to be a little bit random, but we don't want to be too crazy here, right? You want it to be a path still when you're done. That's like a little bit wide. I can tell that when we do our gravel or coarse dirt, it's going to look a little awkward. So we'll extend the path one block there. Again, this is the area I wanted to preserve some of the dirt, and then we missed our planks here, actually. Those back in there. And that's it. We just kind of go through here and just randomly break this stuff. When we go back through in the past to kind of replace some of these blocks with our texture blocks, we may or may not like the areas that we decided to dig away or replace, but we'll be able to see that pretty clearly as we go back through. It's funny, I'm already getting a feel. I think we might be a little bit short on texturing blocks. It doesn't feel like we're breaking a lot here, breaking one block here and one block there, but I promise this does add up. You can go through a couple stacks of gravel real quick. All right, these areas by the bridge, while we're gonna have like a nice wide path, I do want them to be very textured. So I want to do like a pretty sparse amount of actual path blocks here. I want it to be very trodden. Probably mostly coarse dirt and like mud. We're gonna make those path blocks just so that I can break them. It's all a part of the creative endeavor. All right, so now that we've got them all dug out, I like to go one block at a time. So what I'll do is I'll go through first and we'll only do our gravel spots. That's gravel, so we don't really want those to touch. And then we'll go through and kind of just find some good spots here. A little bit random again, but we're trying to keep, you know, the same density of blocks. I don't love this where gravel can cut a path off. Typically, I would like to do at least like an L here. I don't know if that really makes sense to anyone else, but in my brain, that's what looks better. Some of this just really is truly all feel, and it's also just extremely subjective, so if you don't like the way that I'm patterning this, feel free to mix up your mixtures of dirt and cobblestone. Actually, I forgot we grabbed cobblestone. I might mix some cobblestone in. I haven't done it yet on other paths. Maybe it makes sense for the paths to all match, so we won't do it here, I don't think. I'm not doing as much on the edges. I like to do coarse dirt on the edges, because coarse dirt just kind of gives that, like, dirt where the grass is dead, but it's not like a fully pressed down path, if that makes sense. This is a good spot. I think we could sneak a coarse dirt, and it almost kind of bridges where the path is narrow there, but you still can tell that it like is a spot that people walk. Little of that action. This is pretty under textured, I would say. There. Let's just throw the coarse dirt in here because I'm feeling like this is no, that's all right. I actually don't hate that. We'll throw a gravel there, and we'll actually do this coarse dirt now just because it's a spot we could easily miss. Don't block. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. We're just working here. You know, it wasn't my intention when I hopped on to start recording this to make a tutorial, but I guess this has kind of turned in how to make paths in your Minecraft world. That might even be the title now. We'll see. I didn't expect to be like so explainy, but you get passionate about paths, you know? It happens to everyone. Again, going back to that like telling stories in your world, paths are one of those things that paths show life without directly showing it, right? It shows that people have been in an area and that the area has been impacted by those people, right? And a path, again, it kind of tells you a lot. Is it a road where we've been building a road over in the town? A road says a very different story about where you might be in the timeline or in the world versus just a beaten path in the woods, right? I think we're going to sleep at Plato's house since we're so close. Hopefully he has a bed over here. I haven't actually been in this house yet. There may or may not even be an interior. Actually, I think he showed it in his video. There's like a very modest interior, I believe. I don't see a bed immediately. Ah, look at that. Perfect. Ah, rise and shine. Actually, he's got a nice little kitchen here. Not much of a door, though. All right, so we did mostly gravel. We did throw in some coarse dirt. So now we're going to go back through with our coarse dirt, and we're going to keep an eye, too, for areas where we think we could use more texturing in general. Now that the gravel's there, and as we put the coarse dirt, like, that is kind of the final texturing, right? So This feels a little under textured to me, so I'll throw just one more there. And honestly, this could be a good spot for an L. And where this gets wider here, I think we throw another gravel. Just to give it a little bit more character, as they would say. We also want to keep an eye out for steps that we might have missed, and other things like that. This is pretty good. I kind of like that the path's beaten here. If we ride through here on a horse, I'm a little bit worried we'll hit our heads here, but I'm going to leave it for now. It's a good test that we'll have to do. Once we get the path built, we'll ride through with the horse and make sure it's horse approved. That's something we have to keep into account now that we are riding horses everywhere in this world, is we have to be able to fit everywhere. I don't like this 1, 2, 3 in a row like that, so we're actually going to do that. I don't know why I just ruined that coarse dirt. Do that. What was I going to do? Oh yeah, we're going to flip this. Put the coarse dirt here. Put regular dirt here. And then we'll probably just add another coarse dirt here so that we still have some texturing. This feels a little bit awkward to me right here as well. We'll put another coarse dirt there and here. And keep moving. Again, I want this to be extremely coarse dirt. We're actually probably going to add more even once I fill these in. How much do we have left? 13. I want to put more in, but we are going to run out. So let's do this with what we have left. Then we're going to have to run back to the house and grab a little bit more coarse dirt. Can I make coarse dirt in my inventory? Let's actually check. Oh, I can. There you go. We'll just make some real quick. Minecraft. We mine and we craft. There. This is coarse dirt, right? All right. There. And you can already kind of get a feeling for like, this is now a full-blown path, right? And even this alone can work. Honestly, you can stick with path blocks. Like path blocks, they can get a lot of hate from some people, but I think it is totally acceptable. I mean, it is a path, right? If it's a very traveled area and it's not like muddy, there's no reason that it wouldn't just be ground with no dirt or grass, right? But I like to add just a little bit of texture, obviously, to my world. All right, all of our dirt blocks are in, all of our coarse dirt and gravel is in, and now I like to use fence posts just to show, especially like here at intersections, it can be nice to like really block off the turning points, if that makes sense. So this feels like an opening to go this way. This is a little bit tight. I think I'm gonna leave it though. The only thing I could say is that we could potentially flop this post. Let's see what this feels like. Just, yeah, that opens us up a little bit more. We'll keep that. I think I like that better. All right. And then we're gonna go through here and we're just gonna find spots where we want to kind of block off the edge of the path where it makes sense. You can kind of do these all over the place. You can do them just as like railings as you're stepping down. It kind of, once again, unfortunately, this tutorial for paths is that, hey, it's kind of all feel. Sometimes you'll do stuff and like it. Sometimes you'll do stuff and hate it. Just remember in Minecraft, you can always go back and change it later. All right, do we want to do something here? Let's see. If we add dirt here and here, I think I might want to put the fence posts like extending right off here. Just as like a, hey, don't fall off the cliff kind of thing, right? And then, again, I always like them. See, this is not good. This feels like a block as we're going down the path, so we don't want to do that. I don't hate that. Just one post there, maybe? Yeah, it's a little bit awkward for these, like, diagonal areas. One thing I didn't do is typically I'll carry fence gates. Just so that it's not repeating fence posts all over the place, I'll go through, and anytime there's 3 in a row like this, I'll break the middle and put in fence gates occasionally. Just as a visual difference, and not, like, obviously we're not going to use it as a gate, but... Is it turning nighttime? This is just a very dark rain. I'll be honest, I can barely tell the difference between the gravel and the dirt. It's a little bit unfortunate. You may not be able to visually see very much right now, unfortunately. Actually, let's hold a torch. There you go. Let's see how this looks now with light. Yeah, I figured this area is a little bit awkward. See, this is a little weird. I think this needs to be, let's see. Does that help? Yeah, it's a little bit awkward through here, but I'm just gonna sit with it for now. I can't visualize a better option, so that's what it's gonna be for now. A little bit there. Again, this is like the overgrown section, so we're gonna be real sparse through here. Block that in, block that in. A little bit of that action, and bam, we went through all those fence posts. That works out, because again, I don't want to do too much towards Plato's build, so this is a good spot for our path to like functionally end. Now we're gonna go through and add just a little bit of foliage anywhere. Like this area is honestly perfect. This is actually more trees than I would typically put around the path, but I kind of like this overgrown section, so we're gonna leave it as is. But right here is a good area that I would say is like a little too open. Minecraft plains are nice for building, but they are a little bit flat and boring. So anytime you can break up sight lines with some trees or other objects is great. If we had more time, it's also like a good place to build like benches or other just like, you know, world builds, maybe a little campsite, things like that work really well beside the edge of the paths. A little bit of that. I also like to do lanterns, which we did not grab. When we get our horse, we'll come back through with lanterns. It's not like mob proofing as much as it is just adding, again, just a little bit of visual flair, right? All right, this area is a little bit awkward though. I think we can actually squeeze a tree right here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see how this feels going down this way. This is very open. I think I would like to get a tree here. Hopefully we get a tall tree though. Actually, that's not bad, okay. I was worried if you get one of those stubby ones, we probably would have had to chop it down, but that's just a nice, good old generic Minecraft tree there. This is open, but I don't hate the sight line into the quarry and looking up at the house from the bridge. And when you get to the other side, you can see across to slip space still. So we'll keep those open, although I do like right here is a little too open. You just want to get peeks at the world outside the path. You don't want to constantly be able to see everything. All right, this is just an awkward area in general, but we do have some dirt here. Let's just fill this in a little bit, and then we'll put a tree right in the middle of this. And then one more as like a good border to the entrance of this pathway. And that's it. A beautiful path for our Minecraft world. Let's go grab our horse and put up some lanterns. Hopefully I didn't repeat myself and way over explain what is in all reality a pretty simple Minecraft path. But even a simple thing in Minecraft, a lot can go into it depending on how much you want to like think about it, right? All right, I don't think I have any lanterns made, but hopefully there's some iron ingots, or nuggets at least, and here's some ingots. Let's just make a whole bunch because honestly, I feel like I'm constantly needing lanterns lately. Let's do that. We actually have to make them in a crafting table. That was only 18. Okay, I think that's probably enough. Can we sleep this rain away? We cannot. All right. We're doing it live. You're going to have to tune in next episode for the final product because I don't know that I can wait long enough for this rain to stop to record the final product. Let's go put these lanterns up and see what this thing looks like. Oh, we forgot one key ingredient. Like I mentioned earlier, I like to hang my lanterns from trees, but you actually can't hang a lantern from leaves. So what I'll do is I'll actually grab some of these oak logs and put essentially like fake tree stumps to hang the lanterns from. Which hopefully will make more sense here in a minute when I get down to the path. It was a very stormy day. All right, there's already lanterns in this tree, so we don't need to do one there. And that makes this probably the first prime candidate for what I'm talking about with these lanterns. So you break a leaf, then you put a log, which is hard to see in the dark, and then you can hang a lantern from that log. Then I also will put them just on a fence post like this. This is a good candidate for one here. Actually, we'll put it on the wall, I think. Yeah, I like that. And then here's a good candidate for one in the tree. Why can't I break this leaf? There we go. That lantern there, like that. Here's a good candidate for one on the fence post. You can see I'm kind of alternating to both sides of the path. Again, that's kind of just a feel thing. I feel like I always go for very balanced areas and balanced builds, but also not necessary. I almost would like a birch tree one here, but I don't have any birch logs. I don't love that fence post placement, so we'll put one here. This is going to be probably our last lantern. Oh, someone slept. Thank goodness. All right. That's perfect, because now we can go through and see our beautiful path. Let's put one more in this tree, just so that Plato can see the shining light at the beginning of our path when he logs on. And there you go. That is how you make a beautiful path in Minecraft. A little bit of coarse dirt, a little bit of gravel, some lanterns, and some very cleverly placed trees. Well, if you ask me, it's clever. This is as awkward as I expected. Like, again, these are the areas that when you're using the path, you'll be like, you know what? I hate this fence post being here, which I can already tell. I'm going to run into that every time. So we're actually just going to move those real quick. And we're just going to widen the path a little bit. And you'll run into that stuff over time, especially if you're like actually using the paths like I am on your horse. But if they're just visual, honestly, that stuff probably won't matter anyway. But there you go. A beautiful little path that connects another area, and I believe Slip, in his last episode, built a path down to Plato's base. So now, this whole area is pretty well connected with roads and paths. Thus concludes, I think, maybe my first ever tutorial on YouTube. For a long time, I've kind of avoided making tutorial videos, but I think this was a nice hybrid, and at least I let you get another little peek behind the curtain of how I think about building and putting stuff in the world. And again, hopefully you can think about a little bit of story when you're doing it. Alright, that's all I had time for in this episode. I hope you enjoyed the path building with Cobb today. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around. Have a good one.